Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Alluvial, Sarcoma, out May 28th on Nuclear Blast. This album has 10 tracks, 38 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. They are an American death metal band. Now this album has a structure that is perhaps the only weak spot on this record. This is an album built of strength, so this to me felt a little bit flat in terms of what it had to offer to the overall record. It's a structure that feels a little bit broken, a little bit disconnected. I didn't feel like it was engaging enough or that offered me the necessary tools to connect one song to the next and allow the overall playability of the record to be a little bit more fluid, to be a little bit more dynamic. I really felt like the songs came in almost in a bubble, and you have to live off of the strength of the individual tracks, not necessarily the strength of the collective. Once you get into the soundscape, magnificent sound all around. It just has a lot of depth, it has a lot of power, has a lot of strength, and a lot of volume. Now all of these elements are coming together because this is not your prototypical death metal record. It has other influences that really allow them to go in different arenas, that allows their sound to be a little bit more diverse, perhaps even eclectic. You get atmospheric elements, you get prog elements, you get technical elements. All of that mixed in with their brand of DNA of death metal really allows them to create an album that is very robust, that offers you a lot of different looks, a lot of different feels on a track-by-track basis. And when I said earlier that this is an album that has volume, I don't mean that just because it's a heavy record, because heaviness does create volume. But I felt like this album really separated those two. It's heavy on one hand, and the volume that you get on the other is more so created by the junction of all of the different elements. You can really understand what every single one of them is doing on an individual basis because the sound is very clear, it's very concise from that perspective, but when they all come together, they make a lot of volume, they make a lot of sound, they make a lot of power, and overall that really spreads out throughout the whole record, allowing the album to feel very robust. This album is demolishing at every single turn, and that's because of the sound that it has and how it was recorded and how it is presented. Within that soundscape, you have two cornerstones, the drums and the guitars. I love the drum sound on the album, not just because of the heaviness that it provides the record, the demolishing power that it has. It really feels like a rolling stone going from song to song. It always feels like it's moving you or helping you move within the tracks themselves. But it also creates a very important baseline, a very important foundation for the overall depth and heaviness that this album has to offer, and definitely one of the elements that adds to that overall volume that I mentioned earlier. So I really like what they did with the drums, the sound that they have. They just feel very earthy. They feel like they have life. They feel like they have layers within layers within layers. Incredible drum sound. Then you have the guitars. The guitars are perhaps a little bit more diverse, and this is where I feel like the diversity is really coming into this record. A lot of the prog elements, a lot of the technical elements are really coming into the guitars and dictating the aroma, the DNA that each song is going to have, because this is an album that from track to track things are changing, things are evolving, things are morphing. Not everything stays exactly the same. And always the element of change more often than not is the guitars and the direction that they decide to give to the songs. I love the sound that they have. I love how clear they are. The prog elements, the technical elements really adds a lot of flavor to the death metal sound on this record. On top of it all, you have the vocals, the perfect component, the missing piece, or the piece that really finishes the puzzle, if you will. I love the vocals on this record. They felt always very powerful, that they gave direction to the album. They help the album become one, or at least unify the record as much as you can, because from a soundscape perspective, from a structural perspective, the album is very individual, but the vocals kind of became a little bit of the glue that tried to unify the record as much as possible. I don't know if it was always possible, but they tried to do that. But they had a lot of power. They matched the intensity of the lyrics, the intensity of the songs, and sometimes also the melancholy that's present on some of these tracks. Understanding what the song calls for and going with the right vocal approach for it is exactly what this album is all about. It's not a one-size-fits-all style record, which what you get in the first song is exactly what you're going to get all the way throughout. There's enough changes throughout this album to really keeping you engaged, keeping you on your toes as far as the vocals are concerned. What can I say about this record? Memorable. That's the best compliment that I can give this album. It's an incredible record all around, a sophomore album. Sometimes that second record is a little bit harder to get to than the debut album because the expectations start to grow. Fans have a little bit more to look forward to. and you have no place to hide. This album is an incredible sophomore record. I love the sound, I love the presence. The structure I felt once again a little bit weak, but the strength of the individual songs surpasses any weaknesses that this album could have. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Sarcoma. Intense, brutal, heavy from the get-go. This is an absolute blender. It changes speeds, it changes how it's blending you, but it's an absolute blender. It just feels like you're always in there, you're being destructed, it's chopping you up at every single turn. As you progress through it, it's just morphing and bending and changing, but you're still getting demolished, like I said, at every single turn. A song that never really loses its volume, it never really loses its heaviness, it just changes the perception that you have as you progress through it. And it takes you on different directions, but it always brings you back to the same starting point. So this is a boomerang style track. You go here, you go there, but you always end up coming right back into the middle. The solo had a little bit of a dark atmosphere to it. I felt like it added something different to the track, and it changed a little bit of the perception of the track, made the song a little bit more complete all around. Next, Exponent, a song that drags you out. It has this sense of really dragging you through the mud, if you will. It has a heavy impact, it's a slow moving track, and it really hurts the overall mobility of the song, but you're so connected with the heaviness that it has that you forget that the song is barely moving at all. So it has a very interesting aspect in terms of combining movement with heaviness. It adds on one, it decreases on the other. The vocals help the track forward, they help push the track forward, specifically because of the intensity that they have. I felt like they tried to be that mechanism that allows the song to gain a little bit more momentum. Musically, it's a little bit more linear, so the vocals are really the motor that tries to push this track forward, that tries to ignite the song, if you will. But a very interesting track all around. Last but not least, Sleepers Become Giants. I love this track because it offers a different side of the band. It has a little bit of melancholy in it, it has a little bit of clean vocals in it, and that really changes your perception. It starts off very melancholic, very smooth, very dark. It becomes a little bit heavier, but it always goes back to that melancholy, always finds a way of reigniting with it, and those clean vocals are so dark. They really change the eyesight of the song. It becomes a Jekyll and Hyde track. Really two worlds coming together in one single track, but transitioning from the harsh vocals, the heaviness of the song, to the more melancholic approach happens so smoothly that you don't really feel like the song has that Jekyll and Hyde aspect to it. The solo on this track is the best solo on the album. I just love it. I was floored with the quality of the solo, how extended it was, how much dynamic it added to the song. It made the song come to life. Even that this is a track that has that melancholy built into it, and that perhaps takes a little bit of the life away from the song. The solo did the opposite. It just brought this aroma to the track. It just brought life into it. I just love how much life, once again, it was brought in by that solo, how it sounds, how it's put together. A track that feels almost like a death metal pop track in terms of how it's constructed, in terms of how it's put together, and how melancholic those portions are in terms of the clean vocals working really well with the sound behind it. This is it. Alluvial with Sarcoma, out May 28th on Nuclear Blast. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.